In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to use OBS. Now, if you haven't heard already, OBS is a computer recording software and also a live streaming software that is free and also open source. It allows you to record the desktop, and it also allows you to stream to Facebook and YouTube. So in order to download this application, go to your web browser, and then in the URL bar, type in obsproject.com. Hit enter and this page will appear. So there will be 3 buttons for you to choose from. For instance, we have Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. If you're on Windows 7, you need to download an older version. I'll put a link in the description for that. So the latest version of OBS Studio supports Windows 8 up to Windows 10. The Mac OS versions must be at least 10.13 and above, basically High Sierra. For Linux, it depends on the distribution. If you have Ubuntu, you can install it directly off of the terminal. For other distributions, it's also the same. Once you download Windows or Mac OS, it will give you an executable file. You install that, and then it will be up and running on your computer. For Linux, you need to use the terminal to install the application. Once you install that, this is the interface that you're going to get. If you're using a dark theme, then by default it will come up with a dark theme. If you have a bright theme, by default you'll come up with a bright one. Okay, so I'm just going to show the basics here. If you actually open up this application for the first time, it will have an auto configuration wizard, which allows you to set up things automatically without having to go through a bunch of obstacles. It will immediately set up without having you to set up from all these panels. But I will recommend setting up from these panels here, and you can turn off the auto configuration wizard in order to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce from scenes all the way towards controls. For scenes, you can choose between different scenes here. So for example, you can add a new scene and then it will change to a different desktop. For example, you don't want the scenes to mess up your sources, you can choose between this. This is basically for you to differentiate between the different windows that you're running. For sources, you can choose between display capture, you can add in the webcam, and also you can use the window capture for capturing a single window without having to capture the whole desktop. This is designed so that you can prevent people from seeing your desktop, only see the window, for example, a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. By default, this will come out with none. You need to add your own display capture. So once you add your own display capture, you click on OK, and this is what will show up. If you have a blank screen with nothing on it, that means that it is pointing to the wrong graphics processor, which basically means graphics card. If you have a laptop with 2 graphics cards, this may occur all the time. So what you need to do is to right click on the desktop, click on display settings, and then scroll down, click on graphics settings, and then browse for the OBS Studio application. Once you find that, you just have to configure it directly off of here. Click on options, and then you see that now it is by default using the system's GPU. So the system's GPU is an Intel HD Graphics 620. This is the GPU that is built into processors including Core i5s and Core i7s, and it's also the power saving GPU. This is used to power your monitor. For the high performance GPU, this is for graphics processing, for example, movie editing, video editing, photo editing, and also for gaming. So this one is not designed to run the monitor, it's only used to handle tasks that are executed by the computer itself. So this is not the one that is running the monitor. As such, if you actually set it to high performance GPU, the display will become blank. So you need to switch to the one that is built into the CPU for laptops, that is. Close that out, restart OBS, and then your display capture will be just fine. Okay, and then for audio mixer, this is exactly where you configure the audio, which is basically self-explanatory. So you can see that you can have a choice between desktop audio and microphone auxiliary. You can also add more audio inputs from sources. This one is the one that comes by default. Desktop audio is for recording the desktop audio. For example, if you have a video from YouTube, it will automatically record from there. And then for mic and auxiliary, it's basically your input from outer sources. For example, your computer's microphone or your headphone that has a built-in microphone. As such, for scene transitions, this only works if you have different scenes. So you can ignore this part for now, since this is a beginner's video. And then for controls, you can choose between multiple buttons here. For start streaming, you can stream your desktop or your window to, say, Facebook Live or YouTube Live. For recording, well, this is recording the desktop, and you will save to a local folder. if you start the virtual camera, for virtual camera, this works for either Windows or Mac OS, but it's currently not working on Linux. This is for having the OBS software incorporated into applications such as Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, or Zoom, which allows you to display multiple desktops without having to display only the desktop, which gives you, basically this software gives you extra features than just sharing your screen directly off of the software. So this is exactly what the virtual camera is for. I'm not going to explain this at the moment because this is a bit complicated to set up. For studio mode, this allows you to see between your preview and your programs. And then for settings, this is exactly where you configure your resolution, your audio, file size, and all this kind of stuff. And then for exit, well, basically it just closes the application. So I'm going to show you around settings. For general, it's pretty normal. It just allows you to set your theme, your language, and all this kind of stuff. For streaming, you need to add in your own server. So I actually added in my YouTube RPMP server. And for the stream key, you need to get it from the YouTube settings itself. I'll have another video talking about that pretty soon. You need to get the stream key and you need to paste it here. And then after you start streaming, it will automatically stream to your YouTube channel. And then for output, you can choose the video bitrate. You can choose your audio bitrate, you can choose your recording path, you can choose the recording quality of your stream, or also your desktop recording. So for recording quality, I have it on high quality medium file size because for this computer, this is a bit low powered. So in order to save resources, I use this recording quality. And then for the recording format, I use FLV because FLV and MKV are two recording formats that are lossless. So for example, if your computer experiences blue screen of death or it shuts down for no reason, it will still save the file regardless of whether or not you have pressed the stop recording button. It will just save the file and then you can retrieve it even though the computer experiences random shutdowns for no reason. And then for encoding, I use software encoding because if you use hardware encoding, it will cause issues, especially with rendering. Since your computer is low powered, it will take up a lot of resources and it will be very hard for you to navigate around the desktop. So for most laptops, I would recommend using software encoding. And then for audio, this is exactly where you adjust your audio settings, but for this one, is only normally just allow you to enable things by default. So this part is not really that important because it's already enabled by default. You don't have to adjust anything else except for quality. So for quality, I have 48 kilohertz sample rate and stereo channel turned on. For video, this is where you adjust your resolution. So for my computer, I adjusted to 1920 by 1080. And for the output resolution, I adjusted to 720p. Now 720p is basically HD resolution. I decided not to output in 1080p because of my computer's limited resources. So I output it at 720p to make sure that the whole stream is smooth and not choppy at times. For most laptops, I'll also recommend 1920 by 1080 and output scale of 1280 by 720. If you have a computer with even lower specifications, I would recommend you to just change the output resolution down to 640 by 360p, which is adjustable from here. But at the moment, I cannot show you because I'm recording using OBS. And then for hotkeys, you can choose what keys you use for starting recording or stop recording, which helps you to start recording easily without having to go into the software to do so. But for now, I'm not going to configure this one because this takes a lot of time. And then for advanced, these settings are generally for adjusting your rendering settings, color settings, and all kind of stuff. So it's not really that much of a priority for beginners. So I'm just going to leave this one out. And this is it for OBS recording. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please subscribe and share this out to people who need it. Okay, goodbye.